And now joining me here in a Missouri Valley Conference chat, Dan Muller from Illinois State. And Dan, we're getting ready for the first of many back-to-backs here in the Valley. A lot of leagues have done this, where you play the same team in a 2-day period at one site. So you get rid of the home and home all at one site. And what I thought was great by the Valley was they've created two sort of open weekends for potential makeup. So I'm confident, I'm optimistic that this conference schedule will be played. Now that you're on the sort of the eve of this after Christmas, how do you feel like this will play out, where this is the way the schedule is going to be this season?
Well, I'm optimistic too, Andy. First of all, appreciate you having me on. I think that the window right now before classes start again, there's not really many concerns at all for me or probably most coaches. You know, when our team was here in the summer, before students came here, we had no positives. It's when the students came back where you have a little bit of concern. So everybody's got that window, which we talked about, which I think is one of the reasons why it's smart to be playing right now. The fact we're going back to back, it's fine. We're a pretty easy travel league. We don't have a lot of flights we have to take. Some teams a little bit more than others. It will be very unique. It's going to be interesting to see with no fans. So number one, you get all the play calls. Okay. You know each other anyway, because most of the coaches have been in the league for a while. I'm just hopeful it's not ugly basketball, because you scout so well in this league, you know each other really well. Then you have all the play calls. Then you play again right away. Depth will come into play a little bit more, as I'm sure most coaches will tell you. But I'm excited we get to play. I'm very optimistic about it. And we didn't get any favors. We started at Loyola for our first two games. So we'll go see how we're doing.
So one of the things that sort of is out there, certainly in the preseason, that wasn't discussed as much publicly are the officials. This is another way to protect them and to protect you guys, to keep everyone in one place. That also could be a little bit of a factor. If you don't like the calls one night, you get the same guys the next night for the most part. But what did you think of at least adding the officials into this sort of controlled environment over the weekend?
Honestly, it's officiating. Really anything for me, whatever we can do is fine. I'm fine however we think is best. I'm not too concerned about officials as far as getting other people sick. They're doing a great job wearing masks when they can. And they're really not that close to anybody throughout the game at most times. But if we have the same officials, you just hope they do a good job. Most officials are trying to do the best they can. One game doesn't impact the next one. But probably want to be a little bit careful what you say in that first game because they are humans. And you don't want to take anything personally. So that factors into a little bit. For me, the most interesting or biggest decisions, of course, are how are we going to handle the time in between the two games? Now, you're playing conference tournaments, you're playing Thanksgiving tournaments. So most guys have the experience of playing back-to-back games. But it's going to be interesting. What adjustments can you make? You're playing the same team, of course. You learn a little bit. I haven't decided yet if we're going to walk through. What are we going to do? What's the timing of everything? So I'm excited to see how that goes. But as we continue to say, most excited that we're playing. We're blessed. A lot of people across the country aren't allowed to do what they want to do or are impacted much greater than we are. And we get to wear golf shirts now instead of suits. So we're blessed, excited. Got a good group of guys, and back-to-back's the way it is.
So in a normal year, you would have had, maybe up to 10 or 11 non-conference games, a true read of maybe where your guys are at. Obviously, everyone's schedule was sort of thrown up in the air. Very few teams actually protected all of their non-conference games. Most of them had to create them on the fly. What kind of read do you have on your team as you get ready for the Valley?
Well, most coaches have examples of scheduling on the fly. Just real quickly, our greatest one was Murray State. I text Matt McCann at 7 a.m. on a Thursday morning and say, hey, you want to play on Saturday? I text about 10 guys, and luckily he was available too, so we got it going, and it's a quick turnaround. But I feel like I know where we're at, Andy. I don't know where we're going. we're really, really young. Our best player and only senior, most veteran player, Keith Fisher, opted out 3 weeks to the day before our first game. And he was such a huge focal point of our team. So we had to make a lot of adjustments when that happened. But the biggest adjustment, Andy, is that we lost a lot of leadership, a lot of experience, a lot of practice habits. And it took us some time. I think that we were very inconsistent in our non-conference, but I think we grew a lot. And I think our team right now knows more than we have the entire year what it's going to take to be a good, consistent Division I team. Now, are we going to be able to do that going forward? I'm not sure. We actually gave our guys 5 days off. We decided to play one less conference game and give our guys some time off to go home. I thought that was really important to see their families. So getting back in shape, remembering the mistakes we made in the non-conference, the biggest one of competing and playing together. We've got good talent. We've got really good guard talent. I think we'll be able to score the ball. But as I said, I don't know where we're going because they haven't shown me yet as players that they're ready to be everyday competitors and sacrifice for each other. But of course, that's what I'm hoping we see going forward here.
All right. So there's 2 quick things I want to just pick off of what you just said there. First, on the opting out, we're in a year where everyone's decision, you really can't criticize because everyone has their own personal decision, personal family decision on why they may want to play or may don't want to play or coach or compete in any way because of the pandemic. So that number one, how did you handle that kind of a decision, knowing that, there's so many different factors to go into a personal decision like that?
Yeah, for Keith, it's unique. Keith had a baby girl in March of last year, a week after our conference tournament. He and his girlfriend are together. They live together. He's going to be a wonderful father. We asked throughout the summer, the whole team, hey, is everybody good? Anybody want to opt out? And Keith, along with the entire team, was all in, want to play, no doubts about it. And then it did come a bit of surprise. He texted me again about 3.5 weeks before our first game, and because he was actually in quarantine at the time, and said, hey, coach, I'm thinking about opting out. So we went about a week, discussed all the variables, I said, look, if you're going to make the decision, make it on fact, not emotion. Okay, so we talked about the data, the scientific data, the facts at that time. And in the end, he got to the point where he just said, coach, with all the travel, with my baby, with my girl, I just think it's best for me not to play. And I support him. Did it hurt? Sure it did, but I fully support him. He's a wonderful person, a very mature kid. And as I said, going to be an unbelievable father. So his situation, very unique to others opting out. As you said,
the other thing you mentioned about sending them home, and there's been a lot of debate about that. Obviously, you have to deal with the back end of that, or had to deal with the back end of that, and every school has to. If they, Villanova just changed their mind, they're sending theirs home. Duke obviously changed its mind and sent their home. Majority of the all the Big Ten, they decided to play over the holidays because everyone was going to stay. So once again, to each his own.
Right.
But there potentially can be issues on the back end, where people are coming from and are they exposed, and do you have to quarantine on the back end? So how did you manage that decision, balancing, hey, I think they really need a break versus I don't know what's going to happen on the back end of that?
Yeah, and there's 2 things I would say. So some of our schools in our conference can't send their kids home because their university or their county, mainly the university, has a 5-day mandatory quarantine if you leave the state or if you go out of town. So if you let them go home for 4 days and they have to come back and quarantine for 5 days, it takes away the option. So that's a lot of schools in our league are like that. Luckily, our university's not. I would just tell you, Andy, it was very simple for me. Very simple. I thought for mental health purposes, our guys needed to go home. Also for me, for faith-based reasons, they can't be home on Christmas. Of course, we have guys of different faiths, so it's not just about Christmas. But I just think time with your family right now is critical, really this year more than ever, because our guys, and most teams are like this, our guys usually go home after summer school for a week. Well, we didn't do that. Some came in June, some came in July. I sent them home one or 2 weekends during the first semester, and I gave them 1 weekend off. Some guys went home, some didn't. So they had just been here such a long time. And I will tell you flat out, I said, look, go be with your families. It wasn't go home and only stay around your mom and dad. It's go be with your families, enjoy the holiday season, but don't go to a party, right? Just be smart about it. We did get tested when we got back. Thank goodness, everybody negative, but it was a chance I was willing to take. And I thought it was the most important, not judging anybody who has any difference of opinion, but I thought it was critical for our guys to get home during this break, and hopefully it will help. Now we're a little out of shape, and you lose some rhythm, but still plenty of time to get ready for our first game.
And I think that's critical, that you can't judge others, certainly not this year, because everyone knows their own team. They don't know how people have handled it. And I also would say, especially teams that have already had to quarantine and dealt with that isolation, whenever that was. And your other point that they might have been there all the way since June. That's a long haul. All right,
well,
last again.
We've had, Andy, everybody. We've had guys. Our team is quarantined 3 separate times since August, and we've had a couple kids that have been in quarantine for 45 days or more. So it builds up. It's tough. So anyway, all those went into it. But what do you got?
Yeah, there's a cumulative effect of that.
Yeah.
Last thing on the court. Obviously, I'm very unfortunate about AJ Green. He's out for the year. Having surgery. So Northern Iowa, more than likely, obviously you take the best player off the team, the Valley favorite. It's going to be difficult. I wouldn't say it's completely wide open. There's certainly still plenty of team talent at the top, but at this juncture, how uncertain would you say the race is as we're about to start the Valley?
Yeah, I think it's very much open. I would say that, in my opinion, Loyola, who was picked second, I think, and they have so many returners, would be the quote unquote favorite at this point. But if you've watched Southern Illinois play, if you watch Drake play, Bradley, the talent that Missouri State has, Indiana State's had some good wins. I do think there are a lot of teams that can win games. A lot of it's going to come down to who has to quarantine. If you take from now to the end of the season and nobody has to quarantine, then there are some favorites. You throw in a couple 2-week, 1-week quarantines, and it impacts everything. But the 2 days in a row, depth, how much does that come into play? Injury, it used to be you have a guy injured, he missed 1 game against one team. Now he may miss 2 games versus the same team. Maybe that's the team you're competing against. So the schedule's going to impact it. Obviously, the COVID's going to impact it. But in the end, I think we have a good handful of teams right now that probably think they can win the league, finish in the top 2 or 3. And as I said before, I think if we can buy into what it takes to be consistent every day, I think we've got the talent to win some games. But it'll be a good race, and we are fired up. We get to be playing right now.
Well, Dan, I appreciate it. Stay safe. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. I know it's going to be a long couple of months, but as you said, I think we're all blessed and grateful that those of us that are involved in the sport get a chance to actually be involved in the sport in an unprecedented year. Appreciate it, Dan. Thank you.